Meet Bernard Tomic. At just 15, he became the youngest player ever to win the Australian Open junior title in the Open era. He also won junior Grand Slams at Wimbledon and the US Open. By 18, he was in the Wimbledon quarterfinals, and the biggest stars in tennis took notice. Everyone thought Bernard would rule the sport for years. But just a few years after cracking the top 20, it all fell apart. Some say his attitude was the problem. Some say he tanked matches on purpose. Others say he just stopped caring. So what really happened here? How did one of the most talented players of his generation go from can't miss to can't watch? Let's rewind to the 1990s in Germany. Bernard was born October 21, 1992 in Stuttgart to Croatian parents John and Adisa Tomic. At age 3, the family moved to Queensland, Australia. And this wasn't just a fresh start, it was his father's mission. John Tomic, a former pro handball player, had one goal: make his son a tennis champion. From day one in Australia, tennis was Bernard's whole world. His dad coached him hard, pushed him harder, and controlled every part of his training. Failure wasn't an option. Years later, Bernard said he worked so hard as a kid that he lost his childhood. And yes, the talent was real, but the price of that early grind was coming, and fast. By 15, Bernard was already a star. In 2008, he won the Australian Open junior title, the youngest champion ever in the Open era. In 2009, he added junior titles at Wimbledon and the US Open, completing a junior Grand Slam sweep only a few players in history have pulled off. Scouts called him a once-in-a-lifetime talent. His serve looked effortless, his ground strokes were clean. He read the court like he was 3 shots ahead of everyone. At 6'5", he barely had to move to crush winners. It all looked smooth, almost too smooth. And that smoothness would become his blessing and his curse. Bernard turned pro in 2008 at just 16. The tennis world was watching closely. Could he take his junior dominance to the ATP Tour? At first, yes. In 2010, at 17, he made the Australian Open main draw and pushed world number 50 Marat Safin to 5 sets, no fear at all. Then, 2011 changed everything. Tomic got a wild card into Wimbledon and tore the draw apart. He beat former top 5 player Nikolai Davydenko. Then he knocked out 5th seed Robin Soderling. At just 18, Bernard became the youngest Wimbledon quarterfinalist since Boris Becker in 1986. Roger Federer praised him publicly. The media crowned him Australia's next big hope. By year's end, he was in the top 50. His future looked unlimited. But cracks were forming fast. Bernard had the talent, no question. His mind was a different story. In 2012, people started noticing his behavior. Against Andy Roddick at the Australian Open, he looked checked out, barely trying on big points. A word started following him everywhere: tanking. It began small. No fight on break points, walking through games when down a set, body language screaming defeat before the match even ended. Years later, Bernard admitted it flat out: "I would let go sometimes and tank and not be there." But he also explained something people forgot. Tennis is lonely. You travel by yourself, you lose, and you go back to an empty hotel room. No team, no one to lean on. As Bernard later put it, tennis destroyed me mentally at 24. Critics questioned his heart. Former players worried out loud. Fans were frustrated because the talent was obvious. But talent alone doesn't win at the pro level.
Then came the moment that changed everything. In July 2013, Bernard's father was banned from tournaments after a fight with Bernard's hitting partner. John Tomic had coached his son his entire life, the man who built him, but also the man who crushed him with pressure. Now, Bernard was on tour alone, without his father courtside, at the worst possible time. That same year, he pulled out of a Madrid match, citing injury. Then he was spotted partying around the city instead of resting. Headlines wrote themselves: a prodigy who cared more about clubs than trophies. When reporters asked him about it, his answer was blunt: "I don't care." He said he didn't care what people thought, didn't care about the criticism, and it looked like he didn't care about tennis either. Yet somehow he kept winning. In 2015, he had one of his best seasons ever. Wimbledon quarterfinals again, fourth round at the US Open, titles in Bogota and Sydney. By October, he hit a career-high ranking of world number 17. At 22, top 20, earning millions, with a clear road to the top 10. Then, something inside him shifted. He later explained it plainly. I got to 23, 24 years old and made $12 million. Mentally, I was like, I just lost the hunger. I didn't feel fulfilled. Even winning on the court, I just wanted to be normal. The money and pressure had caught up to him, and nobody could answer the real question, did he still want this? Then came 2016, and everything spiraled. At the Madrid Open, facing Fabio Fognini, Bernard simply gave up. Not gave up trying, gave up completely. He stopped chasing balls. He hit shots with zero effort. He walked through the match like he had somewhere else to be. On match point, he even held his racket backwards. Fognini looked stunned. The crowd booed. Commentators had no words. Final score, 6-2, 6-4. Total surrender. Afterward, reporters asked what happened. Bernard's answer shocked everyone. I felt a little bit bored out there, to be honest. Bored in a pro match on a huge stage. Then he was asked if prize money mattered more than competing. His reply, would you care if you were 23 and worth over $10 million? Fans exploded. Social media went wild. Tennis legend Pat Cash, an Aussie champion himself, called Tomic a disgrace to the sport and his country. The ATP fined him $15,000 for lack of effort, tennis code for tanking. But for Bernard, $15,000 was nothing, pocket change, and that was the real problem.
If you think that was rock bottom, wait, it got worse. At Wimbledon 2017, Misha Zverev crushed him 6-4, 6-3, 6-2. After that match, Bernard said something that killed off any goodwill left for him. He admitted he felt trapped in tennis. He questioned if he even wanted to keep playing. The press room went silent. He just told the world his passion was gone, confirming what everyone already suspected. The backlash hit hard and fast. Players criticized him, fans turned away, Australian media tore him apart. Looking back, Bernard owned his mistakes, but added context. Australian media is probably the worst media in the world. Don't get me wrong, I did stuff that provoked them for sure. I wasn't the smartest guy, but they want to sell papers. No one's going to wake up and want to read something good about someone. They want to read something bad. Tennis Australia had enough. They cut his funding, pulled his wild cards, and walked away from their once golden boy. Bernard didn't change course. He leaned in harder. He flaunted cars, yachts, and parties on social media while his ranking crashed. By the end of 2017, he was out of the top 100. By early 2018, Bernard's ranking had fallen so far he had to qualify for his own home Grand Slam. He lost in the first qualifying round to Dustin Brown. Asked about his effort afterward, he dropped another line that stuck with him. I just count my millions. At this point, he wasn't just losing matches, he was losing respect. Tennis had seen slumps before. Injuries, mental battles, rough patches, but never a player who openly admitted he didn't care while still cashing checks. His ranking kept sinking. By 2019, he barely touched the main tour, grinding mostly at challenger events. Then, from 26 to 29, Bernard basically stopped trying at all. During Australia's COVID lockdowns, in his own words, I partied heaps. There was nothing to do except party 2 to 3 times a week for a couple years. It was like a 3-year party zone. His ranking collapsed completely. It looked like his serious career was finished for good.
Then, at 29, something clicked. Bernard looked in the mirror and saw one last shot, one final chance to prove something to himself. But after 3 years of partying, getting back in shape was brutal. He later admitted, it took me like a year and a half to get fit. I could play a match and I was dead. The first 6 months I was finishing matches and before the handshake, shirt was off. I was dead. Still, he kept pushing. His ranking had crashed to around 900 in the world, so he started climbing back from the bottom, not on the ATP Tour, but at tiny futures events in Mexico, the US, and the Caribbean, earning about $2,000 a title. The guy who once made huge paydays at single tournaments was now playing in front of empty stands.
He ground through the future circuit in 2022 and 2023, climbing back to the top 500, then the top 300. Then in 2024, something big happened. He had his best season in 7 years, 79 matches, 14 countries, 44 wins, 2 challenger finals, and a ranking as high as 160, finishing around 184. He earned nearly $360,000. No tanking, no shortcuts, just real fighting. For the first time in years, Bernard actually looked like he wanted to be out there. In January 2025, Bernard returned to Melbourne Park for Australian Open qualifying. It ended fast. He lost round 1 to Slovakia's Josef Kovalik, 3-6, 1-6. Tough result in front of his home crowd. But in interviews around that time, he was honest about his mindset. No more chasing Grand Slam glory, no more dreams of the top 10. His goal now was simple: crack the top 100, then walk away. In his words, "I want to get to the top 100 and I'm done after that. 6 months, 1 year, I'm done." It's more of a statement than anything to say I did it because I was 900 in the world a couple years ago. I want to retire guilt-free.
1 year later, January 2026, Bernard was back at Melbourne Park. This time he broke through, beating Hugo Gaston 6-3, 6-3, with the arena packed and roaring. Afterward, he said, "I haven't played many big matches in the last year. The atmosphere was incredible. These are the moments you play for." His run ended in round 2, falling to Arthur Ferry 6-4, 6-2. Afterward, he skipped the media entirely, walking past reporters with just 2 words: "Not today." A guy who once thrived under the brightest lights is now grinding through qualifiers at 33, ranked in the 180s, still chasing that top 100 dream. It's admirable. It's also heartbreaking. Here's the hard truth. Bernard Tomic's story isn't really about what he's doing now. It's about what he could have done with this same fire 10 years earlier. So what went wrong? Some blame his father, John, whose brutal coaching may have burned Bernard out before he ever peaked. Some blame the money, saying millions at a young age killed his hunger. Others believe Bernard just wasn't built for the grind of pro tennis. The travel, the pressure, the scrutiny, all of it too much for someone who wanted to live his own life. But here's the truth. Bernard had it all: the talent, the coaching, the chances, and in his prime, he walked away mentally, even while staying on tour to collect checks. He stopped competing at the level greatness demands. That's what makes this story so painful. Tennis is full of players who squeezed out every drop of their potential. David Ferrer clawed his way to world number 3 through pure grit. Stan Wawrinka broke through late and won 3 Grand Slams because he refused to quit. Bernard could have been one of the greats. Now at 33, he's finally grinding the way he should have at 23. It's admirable that he's trying, but can this late comeback ever erase the guilt of those wasted years? What do you think? Could he have won a Grand Slam with this work ethic 10 years ago? Can he crack the top 100 before he retires? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more stories from the best game in the world, make sure you're subscribed.